Good morning, children. This is a video lesson on Lost Spring, written by Anis Jung. Before we moving on to the detailed story, I would like to give you an introduction of the story, what it is about. What is the central theme discussed in it? The story deals with the deplorable and pathetic life of some children, the rag pickers and bangle makers, who are thrown away from the normal life of other children of our society. They live in a society just adjacent to a civilized one, but no sophistication come into their life. They are not given the chance of schooling. At a very early age, they are forced to do child labor. They remain clueless in the periphery of a civilized society. So the writer strives her best to eliminate the child labor through her work. She propagates education for these children and stopping of child labor by implementing stringent law by the government. So the simple message of the story that it tells us, these children must be given the chances of their life. Give them back the spring of their life. They lost it. So she tries her best. She conveys through her writing, how can we give this spring back to these children? Now let us move on to the storyline.
India's most familiar images. By 5 in the morning, lakhs of men, women and children set out towards rubbish dumps and landfills to rummage through the mountains of garbage, their aim to find waste material that can be recycled. These are India's rag pickers. Who for generations have been part of an informal waste management system. There are 2 million rag pickers across India, a large section concentrated in the big cities. Delhi NCR region and Mumbai have a population of 3.5 lakhs. And of the total population of rag pickers, 1.2 lakh children are actually under the age of 14.
Have you seen the video? These children are deprived of any facilities of modern life. So this story, Lost Spring, speaks about these children. Let us move on to the story. Dear children, there are 2 segments in this story. We can say 2 stories included in the Lost Spring. The first story is about a group of rag pickers living in Simapuri. It is in the periphery of Delhi. And the important character in this story is Sahib. He is an immigrant from Dhaka. Many years back, he left his hometown of Dhaka due to continuous storms that swept away his fields and homes that his mother had told him. That is the only thing he can now remember about his previous home in Dhaka. Here in this wilderness, he does the work of rat picking along with other children. Every day he comes in the neighborhood of the writer. And one day she encounters with Sahib. Now let us move on to the video clipping to see these rat picking children.
Story of the rag pickers. Especially their lives have been extensively documented by NGO studies on the ground, series documentary makers, by photographers, young film students, by journalists, especially by the foreign media, which sees in it every third world. But on ground, the situation still remains the same. Part of the problem is that the importance of these rag pickers in the waste management system has never really been understood, merely exploited.
There is little data on the fatalities that occur, and as labour laws don't apply, the unorganized.
The story of the rag pickers is depicted through Sahib and his friends. Every day in the morning, he and his companions, an army of barefoot boys, come in the neighborhood of the author. They are in search of gold, ironically the writer says. What they can find in the garbage dumps, sometimes 1 rupee note or a 10 rupee note, sometimes a silver coin or a piece of bread. These are their gold. They don't know any other work to do. They are denied of the facilities of schooling, housing, and a decent life. One day the writer asks him, will he join a school if she starts one? When they meet again after a few days, the boy runs to her and asks whether her school is ready or not. This shows he is eager to join a school and lead a decent life. But his life conditions, the socio-economic backwardness, does not allow him to join a school. One day, the writer asks him his name. He replies, Sahib Alam. Literally, the word means, the name means Lord of the Universe. But he doesn't know anything about the meaning part of his name. If he knows, it is a hard time for him to believe in it. Because he is not the Lord of the earth. He is only the Lord of the rubbish. Then the writer brings out the pathetic and grim condition of these children's life through the image of the shoes they wear. Most of them come barefooted. The writer asks one among them. He replies, his mother does not give him. Then one standing aside him said, even if she does, he will not bear it. It is at this time the writer notices another boy who is wearing a pair of shoes, but they do not match. When her eyes fell on it, he begins to shuffle his legs. And the third boy says he wants a pair of shoes. From here, the writer takes the reader to another story that the writer had heard in her life. It is the story of a man from Udupi. There was a priest and his son. Every day the son used to go to school just in front of the temple. And he used to visit the temple and prayed for a pair of chappals. Finally, his prayer was granted. And after 30 years, the writer visited the same temple. Now it is desolated. Nobody is there for praying to get things like this. Now the new priest and his son, they are occupied with all these things. The child is now wearing school uniform, shoes and everything. But when the first child who prayed for the pair of shoes, when he got it, his next prayer was, he would not lose them. But still the writer says, in our society, people like the rag pickers, they don't have any chappals. And she has traveled all around the country, the villages and the cities. She has come across many people, many children in cities and villages walking barefooted. Some say it is the tradition, but the writer thinks it may be an excuse, a way of explaining away their perpetual state of poverty. Just like many other families, his family also live in Simapuri. And in Simapuri, survival means rag picking. The elders and the children, they know only one thing, that is rag picking. For the elders, it is a means of survival. But for the children, it is something, a wrapped up wonder. Because sometimes they find 1 rupee or 10 rupee or a silver or a pair of broken shoes from it. And these are people without any legal documents, living there for many years. The only document they have with them is the ration card that some politicians arranged for them simply to get their votes. And because of this, their name appeared in the voters list and ration card that provide them with the necessary grains. Other than this, nothing is available with these people. Let us look at the condition of their houses and living standard. Go to the movie.
Nhau nhưng mà chị đã. Ôi trời ơi. Đừng không chạy cầm đá. I love you. Cái cho con. Chạm mèo. Bây giờ chạy bao nhiêu nhân nói chỉ 13 nha là ôn nhôm.
The writer's acquaintance with the rag-picking boys takes her to Simapuri, where she meets the women folk there. She asks them, why do they leave their green fields? They reply, their fields gave them no grains. At least here, they can go to bed without an aching stomach. Wherever they find food, they pitch their tents and live there. Their children also. And they live in the tents, the elders and the children. The children also engage in the process of survival for these people. And the survival in Simapuri means rag picking. Through years of experience, rag picking acquired the proportions of a fine art. Garbage to these people is gold. It is their food. It is their roof over their head, even though it is a leaking roof. For their parents, it is a means of survival. But for children, it is something more. Sometimes they find these rupees and silver coins in it, so they consider it as a wrapped up wonder.
As rag picking is entirely informal part of the unorganized sector, there is no protection for those at work. No gloves, no masks, no safety gear of any kind. Their own poverty means they're not even adequately clothed. Often bare feet, children, adults expose themselves to disease and illness.
On another occasion, the writer meets Sahib. He is standing just in front of a tennis court. He is watching the game. Two men are playing there. And he is wearing a pair of shoes. One of them has a little hole in it. the writer comments here that it is better to have a shoes with a hole in it than walking barefoot. And she notices that who has been standing and watching the game that is far away from him. The fencing is not only the physical fencing that divides these two worlds. One is the world outside him and the other is his slum world. The match he has been watching is out of his reach. On another morning, she comes across Sahib. Now he is going to a milk booth down the street. He has with him a canister in his hand and he says to her, now he is working in the tea stall and he is getting 800 rupees on all his meals. But the writer notices his face. It lost its gleam. He has lost his carefree look. The writer comments, the bag that he has carried over his shoulder seems lighter than the canister now he carries. He is no more his own master. It indicates he becomes a bonded laborer. Under the tea stall. This is the story of rag pickers. In the next video, we can learn about Mukesh's story. Now watch this video clipping and we can stop this part here. Thank you.
है फिरोजाबाद